Hey, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us again for the See Us podcast brought to you by the Narrative Justice. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms, all the pseudo moms, all the makeshift moms and stand-in moms like myself. I've been getting a lot of Happy Mother's Day today, which is weird because I don't have kids. And I feel like you people are wishing kids on me. So shout out to y'all. Y'all have been trying to get me pregnant more than my husband has. But happy Mother's Day to everybody, you and y'all's. Today we have a dope episode with two super dope people that I know and have the most respect for. But before we get started, as we always do, we give honor and respect for Leroy Powell. Leroy was 15 years old in 2014. He was murdered. He was a witness of an attempted murder, turned infanticide, and his witness statement was played on the 11 o'clock news. He was completely exposed. He and his mother, they received death threats immediately, and several days later, he was gone. Now, that was directly the fault of our local media, who did not value Leroy's life or his mother's life. So if I don't say it enough, if you don't hear me enough, we have to hold local media accountable. We have to take back control of our narrative, because if we don't take control of our narrative, we'll continue to be exploited. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. And that's absolute facts, super facts. There's real power in our voices. There's real power in our narratives. Don't let nobody tell your story but you. Don't let nobody tell our stories but us. You also, y'all are gonna, I'm gonna beat this to death, but it only takes about 25% of the community, whatever the community is, for change to occur. So when we're talking about change, social change or whatever, this idea that it takes everybody got to be on board, that's not actually true. It only takes about 25 people to spark it, to make it go viral. So keep that in mind. Pittsburgh is only about 310,000 people. Only about 1 million people interact with the city on a daily basis. So keep that in mind. It doesn't take that many of us to make things shake, and we're always right there. We're right there. A quick update: if you didn't catch our show, our emergency broadcast the other day, we had Miss Sandra Cole on. Miss Sandra Cole's mother is currently being held at UPMC Montefiore Hospital. She is being taken. I believe they plan on taking her to a nursing home against her family's will. Miss Sandra and her family all want her mother home. They have everything they need to bring her home. And for some reason, this doctor, Dr. Bruce Rollman, is refusing her not only care, but he's also refusing to release her. He's challenged her. They are challenging her power of attorney for some reason. It's a lot of wild things that are going on. So if you can, in the strength of Mother's Day, call UPMC Montefiore, 412-692-4888, and demand that they remove Dr. Bruce Rollman from Peggy Cole's case so that the family can bring her home. Like I said, they have everything that they need. They have all of the equipment that's needed to make sure that she has the care that she needs. She's surrounded by love, like she's always been surrounded by love. So make sure that they get their mother home. So call UPMC Montefiore. Look out for Miss Peggy Cole. Look out for Sandra Cole. Sandra Cole is a giant in our community. She does so much for all of us. It's about time that we do the same. As a reminder, my other hat, run the Wellness Collective. Right now we are facilitating the drop-in center in McKeesport for rent relief for Allegheny County. So if you need assistance with your rent, if you want help with your application process, don't have access to technology or whatever to do it, feel free to stop by and check us out. Like, we have plenty of space. We're usually just down here kicking it. You can come use the computers. We also have a food pantry. We just got some additional food down here. Our address, I need to slow down. I had too much coffee. Our address here is 337 Fifth Avenue, McKeesport, PA, 15132. Shout out to our lovely producer, Miss Denise Graham Sheely. She orchestrated for us to have 30 food boxes here on yesterday, which are beautiful boxes. They had some dope stuff in it. It had this chicken. I had one of the chicken because I was like, I ain't cooking, so I'm going to do this. And it was good. It was pretty good. So we have like extras left over. So if you need some food, there's like produce that we got here. We have dry goods. We have chicken, milk, cheese, hot dogs. What else is in there? Yogurt. If you into yogurt, it's probiotic too. So get your gut health together. So yeah, if you want some stuff, you can come check us out. Tomorrow, make sure you check out today's news, Changing Our Narrative, every Monday at 7 p.m. You can check that out on QK Productions Facebook page, their YouTube page at Black News 325, and their Twitter page, Black News 325. So that'll be all of my rambling for right now. Now we're going to get to the good stuff. I'm going to bring on our two lovely guests. I'm going to start with Miss Blair Mickles. What's going on, Blair? How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. And yourself?
Word up. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. For a little while now, I've been observing you talk about your experience as being a minority veteran, which has been wild. Like the stories that I've been hearing about what has taken place with you specifically, but also just generally, what your experience has been. But before we get into it, where are you from originally?
I'm originally, though I was born in Wilkinsburg, but I grew up in Hawk College in Rankin, and I'm currently in McKeesport. So, been around different parts of it.
Oh, word. Oh, so you in our neighborhood. So you got to come and say hi to me then.
Absolutely, right up the street from you.
Hey, can you tell me what made you join the service?
I honestly, I joined after September 11th. September 11th happened. I felt like I should be doing more in my community. So at that point, I actually joined the fire department, which I'm still currently a member of. So I was a firefighter for a while, and I thought, you know what, this just isn't enough. So about a year or so after I joined the fire department, I was watching CNN one day and said, you know what, I want to go to Iraq. I want to go and, more for my country. So I was driving buses at the time. I drove my bus to the recruiting station and said, hey, I want to join the Army and I want to be a driver. So I joined the Army as a driver.
Wow, that's dope. That's super dope. That you sprung into action. That's commendable. I appreciate it. All right, so I would like to bring our second guest up, Miss Brittney. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Nice. Always good to see you. Always good to see you. So I'm gonna ask you the same questions. First of all, where are you from?
Born in Staten Island, New York, because my dad was in the Army and he was based at Fort Hamilton. Wasn't there long though. Moved to the Pittsburgh area in about 2 years. So I was the young age of 2, but grew up outside of the city, out towards the airport in Oakdale, and now I live in Garfield.
Word up, word up. Very similarly, I was born in Baltimore, Maryland. I was there for a couple of years of my life, but spent all my upbringing here on the north side, all over the north side. And I feel like I'm gonna ask you, but I feel like because you're a military family, that the answer's already there. But what brought you to the military?
Um, Blair and I actually have something in common. I wanted to do a lot in my community. I was always a helper. I joined the volunteer fire department as well, and was an EMT for a little bit. And yeah, coming from a military family, the pressures of needing to go to college and not having the money to pay for it, the fear of being in debt, going to college and just, getting a loan. Um, and just the fact that I was really, really good at Marine Corps JRTC in high school. So I felt like, I was like, there's no way the military could be a wrong choice for me. So it's pretty layered of why I decided to join, but it's a mixture of all those things.
Nice. That's what's up. I thought you were gonna be like, well, my dad was in the military, so I'm glad you went on your own 2 feet. That's what's up. Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you both again for joining us today and telling your story. Like I said, like I know both of you, and Britt, I know a little bit about your story, your military experience. Blair, similarly, but like I said, recently, Blair, I've seen you speaking out and speaking up about your experience, as a minority vet and a leader in some of these spaces. So I'm curious about if you don't mind sharing with us, like, what has that been like specifically, and then generally, if I could ask.
Um, I'll I'll start a little more general if that's okay, and then bring it in. Overall, I've been involved in the veteran community since I returned in 2015, and what I found there was nobody that looked like me, nowhere within veteran spaces that I necessarily felt welcome. For instance, I went to a VFW, which, out by me, which it is now under new leadership. I've been invited back out, but the hurt was too deep that I just don't want to even go anymore and risk anything like that happening. But I've gone to a VFW locally with my VFW card in hand and in my face and told that I needed to call the commander and all of this other stuff and I'm just like, but I'm a VFW member, which, requirements for that are actual like service overseas, stuff like that.
Blair,
And
I don't mean to cut you off, but your connection is cutting in and out, and I don't want to miss what you're saying. Do you mind if we get started with Britt, and then we'll rope back around to you, see when it evens out? All right, thank you so much. Thank y'all for y'all patience. So, Brittney, I want to ask you about after your life after serving. What does that look like for you as a newly minted veteran, and what has your veteran life been like since you exited the military?
My life has been fruitful after getting out of the military. I come from, I think, an interesting perspective where I actually was never deployed, which a lot of veterans have feelings on. But I feel like coming out, again, my story is very, very layered and there's a lot to it, but coming out of the military, having military sexual trauma, I feel like there was this transition. And I feel like there are still things that I am still trying to unlearn till this day. I feel like I didn't really have much support. And I definitely, don't want to sit here and say that veterans who have been deployed definitely have support coming, transitioning to the civilian world, because I know for a fact that they don't. We see over and over and over how, they are failed with transitioning to civilian life. But I feel almost as if because I wasn't deployed, I had even less access to things. And which really seemed unfair to me because it's not my fault that I experienced military sexual trauma. And I do put that on the military. I do put that on the various leadership that I had throughout my 7 years. So, I really do hold some resentment, quite honestly, towards the military and towards the National Guard, towards a little bit towards the VA for sure, because of my lack of support. So yeah, it definitely was challenging, not just getting out, but even like the 2 years that I kind of spent trying to get out of the military. That was quite honestly probably the toughest.
Wow. Well, first, I want to So I'm sorry that you had those experiences, right? Like the trauma, like the lack of support, and then the like navigating, trying to get out of the military. Like all of that sounds horrific, you know. Um, if you don't mind me asking, and feel free to say no to whatever. When you experienced your trauma, what was the service's response to you? Like what type of how did they respond to you, and did they offer, or was there any type of support that was made available to you?
In the actual time being of me experiencing the sexual trauma, the first time was in 2012, which was just, I had only 1 year in at that time because I joined in 2011. And I was at training. I was at Advanced Individual Training, also known as AIT, or your job training in Fort Gordon, Georgia. And there really wasn't a way for me to report safely. That's why in the case of Vanessa Guillen, which was recently, in the media, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us know about that. That was very triggering for me because her story is so similar to my story at Fort Gordon, Georgia, to the point where there were so many fear tactics and threats in place that I didn't even feel comfortable coming forward and saying, "Hey, so and so is happening." um, which resulted in a lot of different almost moral injuries for me because, I wasn't the only person being assaulted. So I obviously didn't feel support in that area because the people who were supposed to be giving me the support were the people who were committing the acts of sexual assault and harassment and whatnot. So definitely didn't feel supported in the moment. And like coming out of the military, I didn't know anything about getting mental health support at the VA. I had no idea that it existed. I had no idea that they were trying so hard to reach folks who experience military sexual trauma. So it really wasn't until very recently that I tried to pursue that avenue of help and still didn't feel supported within that because of a unwritten rule, I guess, in the reg, and I wasn't eligible for the care that active duty members were eligible for. So I was actually denied care that in the regulation it sounds like I am eligible to receive, but they told me no. So I actually had to wait until I got service-connected disability, which was an entire process, in order for me to be able to go to the VA and get care specifically for my military sexual trauma.
Yo, that's wild. That is wild. So, so the, so the VA has mental health services made available that you were unaware of. So it wasn't even made accessible. And then when you found out about it, they told you, yeah, we have this, but not for you. And then you had to find a workaround to receive the services that you needed. And that workaround was going through a process of applying for disability, which is just a process to begin with. That's wild, yo. Like that is super, super wild. That's not okay. There's nothing about that is okay.
Yeah, yeah, and especially because the regulation, I actually have it pulled up, and it's the government regulation, U.S. Code 38-1720 Delta, and that's counseling and treatment for sexual trauma. And under that, I won't read the whole thing because it's pretty long, but basically, mental health professional employed by the department, the VA, resulted from a physical assault of a sexual nature, battery of a sexual nature, or sexual harassment which occurred while the veteran was serving on active duty for training, or in active duty training, and in operating the program required by paragraph 1, which I just read half of. The Secretary may, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, provide counseling and care and services to members of the armed forces, in parentheses, including members of the National Guard and Reserves, to overcome psychological trauma described in that paragraph that was suffered by the member while serving on active duty for training, or in active duty training. And the reason why, so according to that, I'm eligible because it was active duty for training. But because my orders were at the top of your orders to go to training, it was National Guard orders. So there's different title orders, and it gets lots of abbreviations and terminology is involved. But essentially, because at the top of my paper it said National Guard and it said Department of the National Guard and not the Department of the Army, is why they would not let me receive care for my military sexual trauma.
That's wild. That's wild. Well, I'm glad that you persevere and you were able to, seek care on your own. But that's not okay. That's not okay that you were denied service and care that you only needed because of your experience in the military. I want to, Blair. I want to bounce back over to you really quickly. Just hopefully the internet is working out. I need to process what Brittney just said. If you wouldn't mind picking back up and reiterating what you were telling us earlier about your general experience.
I'm still trying to process what Brittney just said. That some of that just really smacked me in the face. I'm a little bit upset about that. But yeah, overall, like here in Pittsburgh, there is a decent veteran space, especially for like the post 9/11 veterans, which are, the younger veterans since September 11th and everything. But what I found in that space is it's very unwelcoming. The old spaces, such as the VFWs, even with VFW card in hand, I had doors slammed in my face, was not allowed to go into them. I had a couple friends that infiltrated one, and they only let the one in because she was with the guy, and the N word was rampant there. Actually, this was an American Legion, but in a Black neighborhood, albeit. I'm not going to fully disclose the Legion in Hazelwood or anything like that, but oops. Anyway, it is what it is. That's our reality. We have to know where to go. So we do have a lot of veteran-led organizations around here, which, if you look at all of them, there are not veterans that look like Brittney and myself leading it. They reach their diversity numbers by bringing in, white females, because white females are a minority, or in situations like there's a new organization that just moved into town which has minority in the name. And when many people think of veterans, they don't look at people like Brittney, they don't look at people like me. I have veteran plates on my car. I get asked, did my husband serve in the military? People look at me like, oh, that's a veteran spot. I'm like, yeah, I know. They're like, well, your husband's not with you. First off, I don't have or need a husband at this stage of my life. Maybe later, but not now. So we are already very underrepresented as not just women, but women of color. And to see all of these organizations, especially, they go into various neighborhoods. There's organizations in Homewood, which they were able to find someone from Homewood to lead that platoon. But all of the other ones are led by, people that aren't even from Pittsburgh. I will say, I believe that is the only veteran that I know in the Pittsburgh area that is leading in any capacity one of these local organizations for veterans in Pittsburgh. My thing is, if you don't know what I mean when I say Kennywood's open, then how are you trying to lead in our communities? But like I said, so the most recent organization that actually has the word minority in the name came into Pittsburgh a few months ago, and I was, leading that. I have extensive background in, I'm actually, as well as being in school for like community organizing and everything else, I'm also a social work student in addition to GISPIA as well. Oh yes, I know you love us social workers, but but I was pushed out because I wanted to do things that were apparently too radical So I was working with a white male who is also in the National Guard currently, or the reserves. And everything I said fell on deaf ears. He wanted everything his way. He wanted to only work in certain communities. He only wanted to work with certain white led organizations. But of course, he also was classified as a minority because, yes, LGBTQ status is a minority, and we won't disregard that. That's very important. And I even told them, you know what, if you brand yourself as an LGBTQ organization, I think you could do great things. But the fact that they throw minority in there and then use the white males and their minority status, because everybody wants to be a minority now. It's the buzzword that brings in dollars. And that was, one of the things that bothered me. It's like, okay, you have a Black female veteran, the type that people do not see, but you want to push me out for a white male that wants to do white male type things and say, well, I'm not comfortable dealing with people of color. Well, I guess I can't advocate for women because I'm a gay man. So women are kind of like us, or we're kind of like women. Those were his statements. And this is the person that is now leading the minority organization for veterans here in Pittsburgh. I won't say their name, but.
So, really quick. So, well, for one thing, can you tell us what VFW stands for?
The Veterans of Foreign Wars.
Gotcha.
And it is kind of an old school organization. There's been, attempts to kind of revamp it. It's mainly popular with like the Vietnam and older veterans and stuff like that. But, young veterans are moving in. For instance, there is one that's becoming more. I was actually told when I went one night that, hey, just think, a few months ago, you wouldn't have been allowed in here because you're Black. But now that we've taken it over, you're free to come in. And, this is the thinking that happens in some of these organizations with, older veterans, which of course we want to, build bridges with our older veterans. We have a lot to learn from them. But I look at some of these older veterans here in Pittsburgh, and like Brittney was saying, there's like a lack of resources. Unless I specifically go and walk people, because I do help a lot of people connect with resources, but then there's always weird little, like, I did not know about that loophole that affected Brittney. That just threw me for a loop because I understood anybody that experienced MST was entitled to that care regardless. Which on a flip side, I know white veterans that are receiving all types of crazy things. Some of them were also National Guard or reserves and everything. They're receiving all the top line benefits and stuff. And these are people that served for less than a year, were separated because of failure to adapt. But they're, connected with this white veteran community that we do not have for Black veterans here in Pittsburgh. They look at us as either a charity case or the ones that actually give a darn about us. They look at us as kind of like a charity case. And instead, it's like, you don't know the power that we have. You don't know the things. So we are out here doing this community long before you even moved here. You moved here 3 years ago, and now you think you run this place. I've sat here and heard veterans not from here saying, we run this. They call themselves the veteran mafia and everything. Like, there's names for this stuff here. But if you look in it, I might have been one of the tokenized members for a while until I had enough of it. And there's one other Black male that's pretty much tokenized in that community. And that's it. We do not have a say in all of these little organizations that you see, all these smiling veterans. And every now and again, you might see one Black smiling face on there. And that's unacceptable because most of the Black faces that you see are there are the ones that came home after their service. Most of these white faces you see are from out west, down Texas, wherever. They're not even from here, but they think they know our communities, think they know what's best for us, while sitting there saying, shh, no, we got you, be quiet, we'll speak for you. And that's not the case. They don't know our experiences.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So help me understand, what does it look like, a veterans organization? What are the activities? What is the gathering for? Like, what does that space actually look like? So I have a clear visual of that.
There's several. For instance, there's a few organizations that do work in a community, be a community cleanup, building benches, stuff like that. And I know that organization, that's the one that is also in Homewood that has, the tokenized, which I am glad that he's there. I am glad that, he was put in that position. but that's really about it. They'll go in a community instead of, they claim that they ask what the community needs. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they're just like, you know what, you need a tree planted here. Let's plant a tree. Or you know what, you need this done. Let's do this, without even consulting the people in the communities. They try, or like the one that I really have a issue with, that talks about members of the community. They were in the South Hills working with immigrants and refugees and would talk so bad about them. And I'm just like, why are you even leading? Like, if you don't have respect for the members of this community, if you're looking down your nose to them, like, this is the same person that called me worthless and useless and said that I'm always playing the victim. And I'm like, I've never played the victim. I'm always about change. I'm about that action. Like, if anybody knows me, they know if I have a gripe, I do something about it.
Britt,
And then you've got other organizations. Like I said, you have the more traditional ones. You have ones that are basically running clubs. Like, you have an organization for almost everything for veterans here. But the thing is, I know of only one Legion that I can go to, that's a Black Legion in East Pittsburgh now, but that's the only place that I know of that is welcoming to Black veterans in all of Allegheny County. And I hear that there might be some in Wilkinsburg or around there, but I've never been.
got you. Okay, so the veterans organizations are all types of community activity and whatnot, but doesn't seem to be very accessible to Black folks and minority folks generally.
Correct. And a lot of them do activism and stuff like that as well, but it's only kind of when it's convenient, or the buzzword of the day and everything. For instance, like the minority organization that has minority in the name that I was talking about, they advocate for 4 groups of minorities: people of color, women, LGBTQ, and religious minority. However, their focus has been on LGBTQ minorities, which I will once again say is needed. There is a need for that, but at what expense? It's like, we're going to take this name so we can put the white men up here in charge, take this name, bring money in, because everybody loves supporting minorities, especially post the George Floyd situation. So everybody's all for it. But at the end, they're using it to promote their LGBTQ views, which, like I said, I think is needed, just not, using us as an afterthought. Putting the same faces that we always see, putting those faces front and center.
Absolutely. You know what that makes me think about? That makes me think about the BIPOC moniker, Black, Indigenous, People of Color, which I don't personally use. I don't like to use it, and I don't think we should use it, because anytime like we put anything in addition to Black, what you tend to not see is anything to do with Black people, right? Like, it's an opportunity for everybody else, and to receive benefit, validation, space, and you'll see less and less of us ever actually receiving anything. Like, and to your point, Blair, after George Floyd and this social justice space that we're in with Black Lives Matter or whatever, everybody is eager to give and support Black people for real. But like these names, the trickery, again, like language is so powerful. The trickery in these names are like, oh, BIPOC, like, let's support Black, Indigenous, people of color. And then all of a sudden, to your point, it's like, oh, okay, well, women, LGBTQIA, other people of color who are non-Black, like all of these other folks like are receiving that support. And it's like, oh, but Black people, we got you later. Like, y'all goes, we got you, don't worry about it. But it's always later, and later never comes. So yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying with that. Thinking about this organization that you're essentially pushed out of, which I wanna come back to in a second. But Brittney, I'm curious, are you involved in any veterans organization? Are you active with any? And if, like, why or why not?
I'm currently not active with any. I see active as like showing up to meetings, showing up to the events, putting in my 2 cents. And I'm not currently active with any. Quite honestly, a lot of that really simmers down to kind of what you just said. How it's like, Black people, we got you, but later. And the later never comes. And I feel like there's been a lot of situations where I have been given opportunities in these veteran spaces, and they're kind of just one off. And that's cool. Sometimes, I bridge this, I'm on this gap of, I'm a performer, I sing, I rap, I have an entire album out about my military experience. So there might be a veteran organization that just, books me as a performer one time, and that's it. And, sometimes I'm cool with that, do what you do. But then other times, it's a kind of just like, why is this a one-off thing? Why can't we build bridges together? So that makes things very, very weird. One thing, Blair was talking about the organization that has a platoon in Homewood. They have, a couple, they operate in other neighborhoods as well. It's very, a lot of things that Blair was saying I can relate to directly. With that specific organization, when Antoine Rose was murdered, Antoine Rose the second was murdered, I put in that Facebook group of that organization, it had probably been, I want to say, a month, and we were protesting, damn near every day. And I posted in that organization's Facebook group, and I actually very politely said, hey, I would like to see more of you here, because you can go into Homewood and paint an elder, a black elder's fence and say, woo, we painted a black elder's fence, but then you can't stand out here for Black lives. And that really got to me. And, I was very emotional at that state, but I came to that Facebook group very politely. And I said, yo, I would like to see more of y'all out here. And the first 4 comments was white women basically telling me to like shut the F up, and that this post doesn't belong in this group. And then it started to get into, the specifics of his murder, and and trying to justify it as we see white people do. And that really got to me. And then not shortly after, my post was deleted by a moderator. And I received, quite honestly, a half-ass apology in my inbox. And then it was silence. Nothing was done about it. There was no meeting. There was no, hey, let's talk about why we should show up for Black lives instead of just painting people's fences. Hey, there was no action after that. It was, let's delete your post. Let's send you a private message. Let's keep everything private. And let's not have the entire organization come together and talk about why those comments from them white women were wrong and why the moderator deleting my post was wrong. There was none of that. And then what happens? George Floyd gets murdered. There's this national uprising. And then all of a sudden they want to post some, we support Black Lives Matter message on the Facebook group and their webpage, and nationally, not just in Pittsburgh, but nationally. And then I brought it up again. I said, hey, this is kind of interesting, because remember when my post got deleted and y'all didn't want to stand for Black lives then, but now all of a sudden you want to stand for Black lives? And it was just like, honestly, there's still no conversation. And the leader of the Homewood platoon, I got to talk to him. And it was, this thing where it's kind of like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Here's a t-shirt. I'm sorry that happened. We're in a different space now. Let's keep it pushing. And I'm just like, this is an organization, quite honestly, that I really would like to be a part of. But one of the things is, I don't even feel safe being a part of that organization, because I feel like if I were to show up to one of their projects, I would get them same white women that commented on my post and were hating on me. They're giving me side eye the whole time. I don't want to come to a volunteer event and do work in the community, and the people that I'm doing work with secretly hate on me. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel safe, So that's, to answer your question, that is why I am not actively involved in these organizations, because of shit like that.
Whew. Yes, Brittney. Wow. A whole mouthful. First of all, like, that's wild. Let's talk about the erasure, right? Like, you posted something, for, like, lightweight accountability. Look, like, we're here, we're in this Black neighborhood, we so-called do whatever, can we show up more? And then it was attacked for it. And then the people who are in charge of that space silenced you, literally erased you, and then gave some little lightweight, stupid apology. So you're admitting that this is wrong, but also you're not going to do anything about it. Like, I know it's wrong. Yeah, I know we messed up. All right, later. And we're just going to keep moving. And yeah, let's definitely talk about safety and accountability. And, like, y'all know this is something I talk about all of the time, because you have an understanding. First of all, violence takes a long time to take place. Like, it takes a long time to get a point where someone is being actively violent. And when I say that, I don't always include white people, because I think white people have a different relationship to violence. But typically, like, when we are harmed, we experience harm and no one intervenes, no one shows up, nobody validates our experience. Eventually that harm is going to manifest in some ways. And it's either going to manifest externally or internally, or both. And so when we see folks like popping off, it's like, all right, well, what y'all do? What did y'all do? Or how did y'all not show up? So, like, that makes me think about that quite a bit. As you said, like, I would like to be involved, but I don't feel safe here. That's a very real thing. So even though it's not like a physical thing, like, safety comes in all different ways. Violence is not just physical, right? Like, so, like, not only getting side-eyed, but, but you could be harassed, like, you can be further gaslit and silenced and erased in this space. Like, they can make your life hard. So, and who wants to volunteer for that? And so thinking about, again, like, to your point, Blair, all of these communities, all of these spaces created for veterans, but to be Black and be a veteran, like, these spaces aren't the safest. It doesn't sound like there's safety created for you all there. So Blair, I want to jump back to you. So I'm thinking very heavily, and I've been thinking very heavily about this minority space that that we're not naming, but that you were a part of, however that is, because it's it's wild to me. It's not a surprise. Like, it is wild to me that, like, the person that's heading it up is a white man. It's a minority space. I mean, not to discredit, like, he belongs to a community that is a minority community, but he's still a white man. And that's a thing. That's a weird thing. So, can you talk about some of the activities that you were trying to plan and trying to, produce in that space?
Well, the initial activity, the initial project when it was first started was because they'd received funding to help with food insecurity. So they were doing a food drive, which, of course, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's maybe move outside the city lines a little bit because, I'm looking at resources, I'm analyzing where the need is and where the access is and stuff like that. And it's like, well, no, we want to do it downtown Pittsburgh because he wants everything kept in the city lines. And I'm like, well, especially with gentrification, that all happened before you moved here. People are being pushed out of the city. A lot of Black people can no longer afford to live in a city. And you go, right just outside the city into the suburbs and stuff. And that's where a lot of the need is. But it's, more so geared toward, like, all of the organizations that he wanted to partner with were like LGBTQ organizations, some of which I expressly told him have been harmful to Black folk. I said specifically, no, like, I actually stood outside and picketed this spot, and you're now wanting to bring them on as a partner. And I mentioned all of this, and then I turn around and these things were like, well, this is what we're doing. And I'm like, whoa, we never agreed to that. So my voice was essentially silenced. And even just the types of things we wanted to do, I was like, well, let's actually our build our unit and everything. Like, we don't really have membership. We just kind of dropped in here, said, hey, we're giving y'all free food, even though I know there's a lot of food drives everywhere. I get it. But that was what they were funded to do. So that's what got their foot in the door here in Pittsburgh. And for me, I was like, well, you know what? Let's talk to the actual veterans and see what they want to do, what they want to feel, instead of you and I sitting here making plans for everybody. let's do an analysis. Let's see where the desire is. Because if you're going to sit there and build a tree in the middle of the road thinking, you know what, this road needs a tree, let's put a tree here, without asking, like, do you guys want a tree in the middle of this highway? Like, that's just stupid. I mean, it's dumb. I'm not going to come to you, because that is another form of oppression. You're going to get what we give you, instead of what do you want? What can we do to support you? I said, well, we need to have a chapter meeting and find out what type of support is wanted. We're not going to go and throw our agenda on them. I know what I, as a Black person, want, but we're not a monolith. Brittney and I, our experiences are almost completely parallel, because I don't know if she realized this, but I was actually put out of the military for the same MSW or MST as well. I was actually med boarded, so it was a little different in my case. But her and I have so much in common, yet we're not a monolith. We still have different needs. We still have different things. And if you were to come in and say, you know what, I'm in charge of this organization because I'm friends with somebody here, so I'm going to give you what I think you need or what I want to give you, but only if you're in this area, which is the area, that I live in. Only if it's in your area or this particular area. And if, and for me, that's like not acceptable. What about the people that were pushed out? My thing is, build the chapter, talk to the chapter, find out what they want. Don't tell them what they want. And then if I can just backtrack just a moment, Brittney, I remember that whole situation where you posted that. And I at that point I was active. At this point, I'm not active in any veteran organizations at all. But when that happened, I too asked for them to come out, because I don't know if you remember at the beginning, but I told you that's where I'm from. Those are people that I grew up with. That was my community. In the military, like the police have their thin blue line and we've got our little band of brothers and everything else. That's what annoys me. They don't have our backs. We have each other's backs. But at the end of the day, the people getting all the money don't have our backs. That was me. I was hurting. That was my community. And nobody from them there was there to support me and my community in a time of hurt. But here I am doing stuff for them.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that, Blair. Mm. I feel how intense that is, I definitely feel how intense that is. I not in the military, of course, but generally I have similar gripes with interlopers, transplants who come here and set up shop in Pittsburgh and create their own narratives about Pittsburgh, know nothing about us, know nothing about our history, our pain, know nothing about anything, and create their own narratives and have access to things, because of course they'll have access to things, because when you give access to a transplant, they can erase the people who are actually here, who have the power, the ability to hold government and folks, our oppressors accountable, and the to be complicit in that hurts, especially when those people look like you. So I definitely feel that hurt. My community doesn't exist anymore. The one I grew up in, we're not there anymore. There's nothing there that looks familiar. And more, our greater community on the north side, I grew up all over the north side, is disappearing by the day, and it is due to that type of behavior. And so I sat out everybody, I don't care, black, white, blue, polka dot, who shows up here, with their big ideas and their big plans, and then completely overlooking actual people here. And when actual people here say hey, yo, I feel you, I appreciate you, let's figure out how you can be here and not harm us in the process. And they, and scoff and turn their nose up and keep on going, fuck y'all, in a big way. So I feel you, Blair. I definitely feel you. I'm thinking about the commodification of Black trauma and Black oppression that you're speaking to there, right? These are the folks with all the money. But how? If this money is specific for minority veterans, how? How is this still in white pockets? How is this still in white pockets? And it's literally outlined for us. And again, to Brittney's point, that narrative is so important. That language is so important, because minority has all these other folks included, even though when we think about it, we're thinking Black, right? When those dollars are doled out, we're thinking Black, but it's not going to us. It's not going to us. And so I don't know if either of you all can answer this question. What does it take to establish a veterans organization of some sort?
Honestly, I think it just takes us getting together because I'm gonna go ahead and, because you're big on narrative and everything. And that's the thing. I think we're buying into this narrative that we need people to do for us. And like there are tons of amazing Black veterans here in Pittsburgh. Everybody from my mentor Leonard Hammonds to, there's people that you don't even know are veterans. I used to not even identify as a veteran because I just did not feel, you know, I felt something about it, so I wouldn't even identify. A lot of my friends actually still don't know that I'm a veteran because I don't share that with certain, especially like my fellow students. Y'all better not be watching. But a lot of them don't know this about me because I keep it private because in a sense I am kind of ashamed of it, but I think collectively we need to get over that. We need to use our strengths and what we possess and use some of those people that can kick down those doors because yes, they are gatekeepers. They come in here, a lot of these are national organizations. Like the minority one was started by two lesbians out in Oregon. Um, Other ones were started, oh, the one that we were talking about in Homewood and stuff, that was actually started by he was a one-time governor of a state that went through some serious legal issues. I don't know if you guys know about the history of Missouri, but he actually started this organization. And I'm not going to say his name, but he had a bad he went down pretty hard. But I think too, for us to just recognize, first off, recognize that there are veterans that want to establish a community because most of us are siloed. We don't realize that there are other veterans out there that are feeling like us. And, and we do like we have like a Facebook thread or Facebook chat that a lot of veterans, Black veterans throw stuff in and everything. But as far as actually coming together, having that physical space in addition to that, because the capabilities are there. It's just how do we break into these funders and stuff like that are funding, these organizations from out of town to come into Pittsburgh and tell us what they want because they write up a great proposal. Their grant writers are on point. But at the end of the day, there's no follow up. And if we take that, we reclaim our narratives. I think this is a great point or a great starting point because people can see this and realize I met veterans that also didn't identify. I can notice something about them. And I'm like, wait a minute, are you a veteran? And they're like, wait, how'd you know? I didn't say. I'm like, I can tell. Like we see each other, we know each other, we have this unspoken language. But I think we need to get together and speak our language as unique as we are. We're all different, but I still think we need to have that collective voice and make those collective steps because I tell you what, we might not get the funding that these other organizations get, but our organizations can make in general, our Black veterans here in Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh area make a ton of difference. That 25%, absolutely. And I think we've got that. We just need to find a way to actually connect.
Yeah, most definitely. Malcolm X said we're not outnumbered, we're out organized. And I'm wondering what it would look like for, I'm just not here for begging people who intentionally lock us out to not do that anymore. Especially when they're doing it with our money, like and our resources. They literally take it from us and then give us crumbs, maybe. I believe we have everything we need in our communities, which is why the Wellness Collective exists, right? Like, I mean, we have it here. Like, we can support our own people, and you know what? We don't have to exploit each other to do it. Like, I don't need you to tell me a whole life story to do it. You need, all right, we have it like here, and then go about your life, and that can happen in any community dynamics. I'm sitting here wondering what it would look like for those of you, Black, and marginalized veterans, what it would look like for you all to organize on your own and say, like, well, forget y'all. Like, y'all are violent. This isn't, y'all don't want us here anyway. All right, bet. Like, we could do our own thing. Curious. And I'm always trying to plant somebody's seed, the troublemaker that I am. So I want to ask you all, is there anything that you feel is important for people to know about being a Black veteran, being a woman veteran? Is there anything important that you all want people to know about that experience or your experience?
Yeah, I would love to tell. One second, I'm just gonna plug my charger in real quick because my Mac just gave me that scary. Your computer's about to die. All right. Yeah, I think something that Blair just said. Um, that she didn't actually identify as a veteran. Um, and that is something that I think a lot of people in general, but yes, in Pittsburgh, need to really recognize that we need to move away from all veterans are the same, because that regret of serving, that regret of being deployed and participating in a war that you really didn't know nothing about and you just took orders and said yes, like there's a lot of moral injury right now, with younger veterans. And I think everyone needs to just take a step back when they hear the word veteran, and apply some empathy and understand that a lot of us really hate the fact that we served. I have had to overcome that. I didn't identify as a veteran before. I was very afraid to tell people that I met that I was a veteran. I mean, like when I was dating, that was a conversation that I would avoid at all costs. And I was never deployed, but I still drank the Kool-Aid, right? So I want folks to know that recruiters target Black and brown people. I want people to know that a lot of times that's the only option for Black people, is to join the military, and that is not their fault. And just because you have a veteran license plate, or it says veteran on your ID, your driver's license, it doesn't mean that you are a Trump supporter. It doesn't mean that you are a Republican, a Democrat. It doesn't mean that you love guns, hate guns. Like, it is not black and white. And I think that especially if we're gonna start our own thing here in Pittsburgh, we really, really, really need to understand that and apply some empathy when we hear the word veteran, because there is no two veterans that are exactly the same, just as there's no two civilians that are exactly the same, or people that haven't served that aren't the same. So I think that's something that's really important.
Word up. Thank you so much, Brittney. And really quickly, what's the name of your album? The one that spoke about your service.
It's called The Golden Opportunity, and it's available on all music streaming platforms. So it's 13 songs that very briefly summarize my military experience, from 2011 to 2018. So.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard it, I suggest you do. I did check it out when she dropped it, and it was powerful. It was a very powerful project that you worked on. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing all that you just shared right there. That was super important and powerful statements, and just connecting, what did you call moral injury? I've never heard that language, and I feel so attached to it. Like, I feel so attached to it. So thank you for that, Britt. How about you, Blair?
Some of my final words echo Brittney, because I definitely was going to mention what happened on January 6th as well. When my thing is, when you see veterans, that's not all of us. But also when you see veterans that look like me, that look like Brittney, that look like, different from the white male, and some of the white female veterans as well, because they're just as indoctrinated, to really see us, understand that, yes, we did raise our right hand. We did, we wanted to do right by our country. We wanted to do, good in the world. A lot of us were duped into thinking, moral injury is definitely a term that's come up a lot with regards to the military and certain things that occur within the military. I would definitely look into that. And you'll just be like light bulb moment. But I just want to say too that a lot of people, see us as our unique selves, know that we had to work alongside those people that were storming the Capitol and stuff like that. So, like, please embrace us in the communities and stuff. A lot of times you'll see these people out there doing stuff, and you'll never even realize that person is a veteran. They might, these Black men and women and stuff, maybe older, that were Vietnam veterans and hated when they returned, when they came back to the United States and everything. A lot of people just don't self identify, in part because of those that were heavily involved in storming the Capitol and everything else. We don't want to be grouped into that. A lot of us did it for noble reasons, for whether it be to improve our families' lives or whether we wanted to actually do good in the world and stuff like that. So it's not, a lot of times it was different motivations and different outcomes, if that makes sense. And at the end of the day, when they see us too, realize that, yes, everybody's like, honor our veterans, honor our this, honor our that. But yet a bunch of Black veterans had to organize when a Black veteran was being discriminated against and stuff like that in Forest Hills. We didn't see our same white brothers that are going to arm in arm and go and storm the Capitol for what they want. We don't see that same energy being returned back. Even if we are veterans, it's salute our veterans until that veteran is Black. Salute our veterans until that veteran is a woman, especially a Black woman, because yes, we were hypersexualized in the military, just as our young girls are in society. And in a military, most of the officers are enlisted, and most of the officers are, they're the ones that went to college, that came into the military with the degrees, while the lower ranking and the enlisted individuals were typically the ones that look like us. So that white supremacy in the military is real. And then I have to deal with that, go serve overseas, seeing and doing sometimes heinous things, like, I spent time like in Afghanistan, stuff like that. And come back home and see that it's just like, wow, is this country really the country that it's, yes, I love my country. I do. I love what it can be. But right now we got some work to do. So yes, I am partially ashamed. Just like, go sit in a corner. I need to go sit in a corner right now and think about what it's done. And that's also a part driven by why I am currently pursuing the routes that I'm pursuing in regards to, in regards to life.
Word. Word up. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that, both of you. This has been super powerful. It's so nice to have a lens into what it looks like to be a Black veteran, and be a Black, service person. So I appreciate both of y'all sharing your insight. I really and truly hope that you all do pursue organizing as Black veterans. If I can help at all, just let me know, because I'm always for the rah-rah, always for the movement. So that'll be it for today. Thank you again for sharing your experience. It is our narrative. Our narratives are super powerful, and if we don't speak them up like they're owned by other people, and what we don't want is people who don't love us telling our narrative. So we'll wrap up for today. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to our guests. Thank you for our lovely producer, Ms. Denise Graham-Sheely, for keeping it together for us today. As a reminder, and we'll say it again and again and again, it only takes about 25% of the community for change to occur. So make sure that we are pressing forward. We're not that far away. We're never that far away from change. It only takes a quarter of the community to make that happen. There's real power in our voices, So continue to tell your story every chance that you get. It's yours. You own it. No one else owns it. Don't let anyone take your voice away. That is your power. As a reminder, we want you all to call UPMC Montefiore tomorrow on. Call now. It's a hospital. They're always open. There's nobody there right now that can do anything but get on their nerves. They're open. They're open to do it. But right now, Miss Sandra Cole's mother is being held. They're attempting to force her into a nursing home when she has a home, in fact, ready and available for her, filled with family, filled with love. The Dr. Bruce Roman is refusing to send Miss Peggy Cole home, despite the fact that their family has everything that's needed for her care. They're attempting to push her into a nursing home. They are denying and refuting Ms. Sandra Cole's power of attorney. So if you could give UPMC Montefiore a call 412-692-4888. Tell them that you want Bruce Roman removed from Peggy Cole's case so that she can come home with her family and be with her family as she deserves. If you want to reach out to Miss Sandra, you can do so. You can email her at poorlaw@gmail.com. That's POORLAW@gmail.com. Or you can call her at 412-670-8421. As a reminder, I put this one up. I'm also the whatever for the Wellness Collective. So right now we're running the rent relief program. We're running the drop-in center for the rent relief program. So if you are in need of some assistance, feel free to drop in and check us out. We're usually here chilling. 337 5th Avenue, McKeesport, PA, 15132. We also have a food pantry. We have stuff like chicken, milk, cheese. What else? Hot dogs, dry stuff, onions, potatoes, apples. We got a bunch of stuff here. So if you need some food, come check us out. Soon we'll have a little clothing closet as well. So if you want some free clothes, that'll be available soon. We ain't got it set up yet because I ain't do it yet, but it's coming. So if you need anything, if you want to set up or sign up for rent relief, you can come check us out. 337 5th Avenue, McKeesport, PA, 15132. If you need some food, check us out. If you just want to come and say hi to me, because I'd be bored sometimes, you can do that as well. As a reminder, tomorrow, Today's News, Changing Our Narrative, is every Monday at 7 p.m. You can check them out on QK Productions' Facebook page. On their YouTube page is at Black News 325. Twitter is Black News 325. And I'm out.